Cessna over the threshold, coming up on the white dot, at or beyond the white dot, left turn first available. I got a high wind coming up on about a half-mile final, clear to land at or beyond. Traffic on the left face, you're following a Cessna down, low off your left. Square it up just a little bit, and then we're going to get you in. Start your descent, though. Start your descent on the base. Traffic on final, give me follow on base. Base traffic, start turning toward the numbers now. High wing coming up on quarter-mile final, take it all the way down to the green. Cessna taxiing on the green, expedite down to the next hard surface. Get me some speed, there you go, go fast. This is going to be good. I got traffic on a mile final. You're following traffic ahead and to your right. High wing coming up on the threshold. Take it all the way down to the green dot.
5 Charlie Sierra, 2 mile final.
A mile final, turn north, and we're going to just make you, we're going to bring you back around. Jet traffic's coming up on about a mile and a half final. Runway 9 clear to land.
Okay, all right. Let's listen up, guys. If you're on final for runway 9, I want you to offset to the left. I got a jet that's landing on runway 9. The jet's cleared to land runway 9 if you can make it. If not, just continue straight ahead. It looks like you're going around for the jet. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Oh, we had one right in front of us, sir.
Dragger. Let's see. What we got? A tricycle. Tricycle, put it down. Tricycle, put it down. Tricycle, put it down. Tail dragger. Down to the green dot, then a left turn. Short final here. You cleared land on 9 all the way to the white dot. Go down to the white dot. Find somebody to follow out here. Canard, just come to the runway, and I might have to just send you around. That'll be fine. And for the jet, you just want to stay in this pattern, or you want to go back out for an instrument approach?
Stay in a pattern, Charlie Sierra.
All right, just stay with me here for a minute. And my tail dragger, let's see, over the numbers, go down to the green. And Canard's going to have to go around. Canard, go around. Canard, go around. Canard, go around. And my high wing here over the runway, keep it airborne. Keep it airborne. You do not descend. Do not descend. You got a fast guy behind you. Do not descend. There you go. Keep it airborne. Keep it airborne. As soon as the guy behind you gets slowed down, I'm going to put you down. So keep it airborne. The one that just passed the white dot, make a left turn on the hard surface. All right, my high wing tail dragger, you can put it down now. You can put it down now. And Charlie Sierra, let me get you about a mile off. Let's see, Charlie Sierra, I lost. There you are. Make a left-hand turn. I'll try to resequence you here on the down ones. We'll see how it looks. Short final, you're clear to land runway 9 on the white dot. Clear to land on the white dot. There you go. And the tricycle left on the hard surface and follow the flagman. Welcome. Thanks for being part of the show. And let's see, just find somebody to follow out follow on the final. And as you get close to the runway, if it's not going to work, we're going to send you around and then try to resequence you. Now, who else got sent around that's not back on the downwind? The Canard?
Yeah, Canard.
All right, Canard, there's a Gulfstream up there that went around too. I just lost sight of him, but you're going to make kind of a left-hand turn and stay low. I think Charlie Sierra, what's your altitude?
3,200.
Okay, that'll be fine. Just maintain VFR. I don't know what else is up there above you. Probably most everybody's down here, so just make a left-hand turn. We'll try to get you back here.
Canard's got the jet in sight.
Okay, the RV, maybe an RV-10, whatever, here on final. Keep your speed up and go all the way down to the, aim for the green dot for me. Actually, keep your speed up. There's a guy behind you. Aim for the green dot, and I'm sure that's plenty of room for you to land on runway 9. You're clear to land on runway 9. Number 2, you're going to go down to the white dot. Follow the white dot. Actually, you know what? That's 1,500 feet. You're going to land at the white dot. The spacing looks adequate here. 2 guys on final. You're kind of tight there. Keep each other in sight, and you're going to aim for the white dot. If it's not going to work, we'll come up with a plan B. We might have to send you around. The second guy behind you out there in about a 2-mile final. Are you slow enough to be able to follow that guy in front of you? You need to go around. Well, I probably shouldn't ask that because I had about 5 guys answer me, so I should know better than that after 35 years, you would think, right? All right, so let me see. The guy who's number 1, it's number 1. What kind of airplane is he? An RV type. All right, RV type. Keep it airborne for me. Keep it airborne. And I got a fast guy behind you. The number 2 guy over the trees there. Go ahead and put it down on the numbers. Put it down on the numbers. My first guy just coming up on the numbers at the over the grass at the numbers. I want you to keep it.
T-minus 1 minute and counting.
Hello.
Four, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello. Out there. And welcome to this Thursday evening's live stream. Thank you very much for joining us. unfortunately, I have to kick off the whole live stream with some bad news, and that is that we just couldn't make Zara's interview happen today. She moved from Malaysia, got caught up in customs and no doubt all sorts of other bits and pieces. So we were rearranging, and basically it took a lot longer on the ground, as you can imagine, can't you? Have you been anywhere in the last few weeks? Oh, yeah. But anyway, cut a long story short, I do apologise in advance because we said we'd have an interview with Zara. We don't have an interview with Zara. However, I've been in touch with Zara and her team, and we are organising it as best as we can to get it sorted for next week. So apologies for that. We wanted to make it happen. We couldn't make it happen. So there you go. Right up front. The numbers haven't declined too much, so that's okay. We do, however, have a cracking show for you with loads of great stuff. Which brings me on to talking of great things. SkyDemon. SkyDemon sponsor the live stream, so thank you very much, SkyDemon, for that. And their tips are proving extremely popular. And here is another one. This one's by Hannah Hart, and I guess you could call this kind of a cancel culture tip, really.
Hi, I'm Hannah from SkyDemon, and welcome to today's top tip. You may have one or more routes that you no longer need. To delete one, go to the route menu, tap open, and swipe to the left to bring up the delete button. Android users just need to press and hold. You can also delete logs by going to the logs library, tapping all my logs, and swiping to the left. To delete user waypoints, go to Setup and the User Waypoints library. You can delete an entire folder or just an individual waypoint. When you delete, it's also removed from the cloud. For more information about using SkyDemon, take a look at our user guide, which you can access from our website.
So there you go. I don't know. I'm not flying enough at the moment. Need to delete anything, to be honest. I could do with building it. It's a combination of soft strip and weather and workload. It's not going. It's not filling up very fast at the moment. Anyway,
I do find the log function very useful, though.
I find the log function very useful. When I first started flying, like filling in my logbook was a kind of a daily post-flight ritual in my very best handwriting. Joined up and everything. But now it tends not. I tend to like binge fill in my logbook from time to time, and I'm very lucky with the Garmin system that I've got, because that kind of just sends the log to my electronic logbook, and I just need to accept or deny, as it were. Nice. Which is good. It is good. It is good. Yeah. But, nothing beats a kind of handwritten logbook. There's a whole load of. In fact, this wasn't planned, but I kind of got this. These are my logbooks here, and I got a whole. You just flick through them, and there's so many memories involved in a logbook, isn't there? It's just fantastic. But enough of that. What have we got coming up for you tonight? Well, we've got huge amounts of news, lots of stuff to talk about. We've got an interview with Dave White. Dave was going to be here tonight, but he can't be here tonight, so he recorded an interview with us, bringing us up to date on the customs changes that are coming in on the 1st of January. And we are joined by a Digi from Wingley to talk about Wingley, talk about the CA's cost sharing consultation, I should say. We've got some information back from the CA on that. And then we got Fantasy Hangout and all sorts of other bits and pieces. And Dave's bunking off next week. So this is his last live stream of 2021. And it's good to see he made a Christmassy effort with a hat and tinsel and all the rest of that stuff. So well done, Dave.
But
right.
Humbug. Excitingly, can we reveal who is going to be replacing Dave next week?
We can. I planned it at the end, but we can reveal it now, and we can do it at the end as well. In fact, Dave, do you want to reveal who's replacing you next week?
I don't know who it is.
He's going to be offended again.
Go on then, Ed.
I've been heads down all day editing a magazine, so I don't know who it is.
Okay, so you remember that time that Dave upset a US comedian called Brian? Thought he wasn't very good, and we got Brian on, and we had the quiz. We'll be replacing Dave with Brian next week. So next week we've got comedy from Texas. Brian, it is Texas, isn't it?
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah.
So Brian Turner from Just Plain Silly on YouTube will be here, and he'll be going tonight. Matthew, I am Dave.
I'm going to take the piss out of Dave all night relentlessly.
Remember, folks, comedy is subjective.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. Talking of which, let's move on because there's a whole bunch of stuff to get in tonight. So, Dave, or Brian, I should say, talk us through the news stories. You got the first one, haven't you?
Are we going to do weather?
Good point. Sorry, peeps.
Let's not forget Simon.
Let's not forget Simon. Simon's not here. He sent us recording too. He's probably off eating mince pies and singing carols or something or other. So here's the weather for this weekend.
Hi everyone, sorry I can't be with you live this evening, but I hope that you've had a good week and you're looking forward to some flying this weekend because high pressure is going to be building in. As always, not quite straightforward. There will be some complications around. Still some complications, in fact, today with clearer skies, sunshine across eastern parts of the country, contrasting that with a cloud that was across the west, some sunshine down towards the southwest. Those bases out west weren't that bad at 3,000 feet, but you see the problem we've got. Some areas under the clear skies, some areas under cloud, and I think as we go through the weekend, that's going to mean the difference between fog or not having fog. So this is the way Friday shapes up then. We've got high pressure off the east coast of Scotland. I think a risk of some fog across Scotland through northern parts of England on Friday morning. Further south, I suspect too much of an easterly wind for there to be much fog around. And I think that again lifts the cloud to bases of around perhaps 3,000 to 4,000 feet. The fog across northern England and Scotland should slowly be clearing away, and then it becomes a generally fair day. You see here on the cloud ceiling forecast, most of it is above 4,000 feet. Those are the white colours there. Just watch for quite an easterly breeze across the south as well. During the course of tomorrow, probably nothing horrendous, sort of 10 to 12 knots. On Saturday, high pressure centred over the top of northern England. Now, we could be seeing some more widespread fog then, I think, perhaps for southern Scotland, northern England, into Wales, into parts of the Midlands. It's that sort of area. Again, that could be slow to clear in certain places through the morning, dependent exactly on where that high pressure is situated. Elsewhere, it lifts. So I think more cloud across more southern parts of the country during the course of Saturday. Also, some broken cloud in northern Scotland. You can see here the cloud ceilings just trying to pick up on a little bit of lower cloud through kind of that Midlands, southern parts of Wales area. We'll keep an eye on the forecast carefully for that one, but I think the risk is there. Again, that light easterly wind across more southern areas. And then for Sunday, weak cold front that just drifts its way into eastern Scotland, eastern England, brings some cloud with it. You see there the cloud ceilings are coming in at around 1,000 to 2,000 feet. Could be bringing some showers with it, with those sort of bases, and I think reduced visibility as well. Further west, my suspicion is that although bases are sort of 3,000 to 4,000 feet, we may well find that visibility is reduced by haze and could be a little bit of cloud just drifting into southwestern coast of England and the far south of Ireland, with bases here around 2,000 feet. Best of the flying though on Sunday, always out west, but like I say, I think turning increasingly hazy with that easterly flow. So my recommendation is keep a very careful eye on those forecasts through this weekend, but I think most of us should be able to manage something somewhere. We talk about fog at Aviation Weather School Part 1, and I've got a few places left on the course. My next one, which is going to be on the Saturday mornings of the 5th and the 12th of February. It's over consecutive Saturday mornings between 09:30 and 12:30 hours. It'll be super to see you there. For more information and to book your place, go to weatherschool.co.uk right now. So if you want to be able to learn how you can spot weather windows 5 days in advance, build your confidence in forecasting yourself, and just feel pretty good about the weather and that you really have a handle on it, then Aviation Weather School is for you. It'd be great to see you there. Okay, I'll leave you with that for now. Whatever you're doing, have a fantastic and a safe flying weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Thank you very much, Simon. Looks like there could be some flying this weekend, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Bit of a bone to pick with Darren Lewington, who spent his time in the comments not very productively, mainly taking it out of my Christmas jumper. Come on, Darren.
But it's not a Christmas jumper, is it?
No, definitely not. It's not certainly not one like Darren's got, which is basically Tesco's Essentials Christmas jumper.
Is that your ECG? That's your ECG jumper, isn't it?
I wish my ECG
Two of
took
them.
about this.
if only his heart was so steady. You know, with a rant, it'll be up and down and erratic and all over the place.
I'm hoping for a rant-free tonight, but looking at some of the subjects coming up, I suspect it might. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, let's kick off with a news story, and let's kick off with Dave telling us all about this.
Okay, yes, this is the German company, Flight Design, famous really for its CT microlights and light sport aircraft. They've got a new generation of aircraft, which they call the F2, and this really is their future. Currently, it's just been certified by EASA in the CS23 category. That's the full FAT certification. It's been certified as a two-seater for now, but it will eventually become a four-seater, and there will eventually become an electric version as well. So it's a pretty important aircraft for Flight Design. It's Flight Design calls it a Generation Vision Zero. I don't know why they call it Vision Zero. They haven't really explained that, but basically it includes a whole raft of safety features. So apparently it's passive stall and spin resistant. It's got an airframe emergency parachute system. It's got AMSafe safety airbags in the seatbelts. It's got Garmin ESP, electronic stability and envelope protection. So it's got a whole raft of safety features. It's a very well-spec'd aircraft. It comes with Garmin G3X avionics suite, 2-axis autopilot. The engine is a 100 horsepower Rotax 912 IS. So anyway, that's the new generation from Flight Design.
Wow, 100 horsepower. Do we know how much it weighs?
I don't, off the top of my head. I can find out.
Yeah. No, it seems like it's got a lot of kit in it, and 100 horsepower doesn't seem like an awful lot of power to lift that weight into the air.
Yeah.
And do we know whether it's? I mean, because that's the EASA Part 23 certified. Do we know whether it's going to get CA certified, or are we not going to be able to?
I did put the question to Flight Design. I haven't yet had a reply. I did also ask the Flight Design UK agent, which is Airmasters, a place called Lutterworth, and they said they fully intended to bring the F2 in, but of course it does mean going through UK CAA certification. So there's a fair bit of cost attached to that. So we'll just have to see.
And do we know how much the airplane's going to cost?
I haven't got a price at the moment, no. Not for the CS23 version. No.
Yeah. Andrew Kennedy says, "Oh joy, a computer says no aeroplane."
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna guess that's going to be somewhere around 160 plus, between 160 and 200 grand. It's going to be my guess.
I would think.
But that's based on nothing, just guessing. So don't shoot me if that's wrong. Right. Well, thank you very much. The next story is mine. And it's one of those slightly good news but complicated stories. So the good news is the Civil Aviation Authority recently. What's funny? Is that I was talking about my jumper?
Sneezed. I managed to get to the mute button.
That was very well done.
Yeah, very good. Anyway, so a few years ago, Airspace for All were involved in some trials that you may or may not remember. I think we actually wrote about it years ago at Manchester Barton, which is basically kind of, at the time, it was ADSB traffic information in the towers or the buildings where there was a FISO rather than full air traffic. And that kind of trial went on. And over the last couple of years, there's been huge amounts of thinking, planning, persuading, cajoling, changing and everything else. And recently, I think yesterday it was, the CA came out with a document that said, okay, we give it. No, they didn't say that. They said, okay, we'll do that. We'll accept that. And in certain circumstances, so we will now have something called a flight information display in FISO-based airfields. This will enable them to do all sorts of bits and pieces. So flight path, it will help augment the flight information service that the FISOs provide. So flight path monitoring on approach. So you can imagine someone going, that airplane's just called on final for runway 27. It looks awfully like they're approaching 09 to me. Mistake I've yet to make, but I'm sure it will happen one day. It'll also be helpful for flight path monitoring outside the circuit and nav assistance for VFR pilots who are lost in certain cases. Now, as you might expect with the CA, it's not quite as simple as that. It only applies to FISOs, doesn't apply to air ground. The airfields will have to apply. The equipment will cost maybe a couple of grand, and the FISOs and the kind of surrounding structure will have to go through certain kinds of training and approval. So all sorts of stuff there. And we've got a little video here to play. This is kind of an earlier screen, and I know that the symbology has changed a bit and been added. There's some added clarity now. But this is basically an hour at Barton that's been compressed into 60 seconds. So this is what the flight information display will look like, sort of.
We watched this earlier, and we felt that it needed the Benny Hill theme tune. So just run that in your head as you watched it.
Yeah. Now, psychologists could have a lot of fun, couldn't they? Because Ed thought it needed Benny Hill. Dave thought it was like sperm trying to impregnate an egg.
Repeatedly.
Go around.
Missed. Oh, missed. But you kind of get the picture.
Yeah. It's good stuff, isn't it? And Ian, we dropped into Barton. It's coming up on a couple of years ago when they were actually running one of the first trials, weren't they? And they said this is a really good system.
Yeah, and I can't remember if I flashed this picture up at the beginning, but here's one installed in Goodwood for part of the trial. There you go.
Looks like a telephone. It's the screen behind, isn't it?
So no, that is good news. There's clearly. Let's hope it's the beginning of something. Let's hope that it gets extended. Let's hope that it doesn't fall down the trap that is. Hey, we got GPS approaches, but no one can have them.
That's it. Darren Lewington says cheaper than a £1 million radar system and a viable alternative for smaller ATC units too. So. Steve Middleton says you need the Benny Hill theme tune when you're flying around the circuit at Barton.
Funnily enough, Darren, you probably know this already, in the CA who reissued an appendix to CAP something or other, which is a guidance to FISOs, not the one about marine rescue stuff. They've also mentioned that there's further information due out as to how this can augment full air traffic systems in various places. So this looks like the beginning of a good thing. It doesn't look like the end, but the beginning. And yep, Steve Hutt deserves a huge pat on the back for this. Absolutely, and Steve who supplied me with those pictures. So thank you very much for that, Steve, and well done, everyone. So let's take that as a positive beginning. So there you go. Well done, everyone involved.
Yeah, and if we
good job.
If it can roll out and be widespread, fantastic.
Yeah. I noticed already on the forum, on the Flyer forum, there's kind of at the periphery, there's a few little bits of, there's the inevitable technology debate sneaking in a little bit with ADSB /POR /FLARM and stuff like that. And that's kind of interesting to the people who are interested in it. Most of us who go flying just want something. I just want to know what it does, how it does it, what it's going to use. I don't care about the other stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough of that. Moving on to the next story, otherwise we'd be here all night. Safety sense, talking of good things. Ed.
Winter, and the news that the CAA has completely reworked its winter safety sense brochure. You'll notice this is reworked again in the style of other documents that we've seen recently, like the Skyway Code and the other recent safety sense document, which was all about navigating with a tablet. Anyway, there's a new one, number 3, covers winter flying, and it's good stuff. You know, we know the people behind it, and they're doing good work, and taking a bunch of the old material and bringing it thoroughly up to date. The online leaflet runs to 21 pages, and it's a great resource for students, experienced pilots, and instructors alike. Nice work, CA.
Yep, well done, CA. I think you've done well there. Top marks. Not often I say that, but in this case, top mark. Johnny's been off today, so I don't know where he's been, but he's kind of been had his head out the game. So I've kind of just given him various news stories. So I don't know how much he's done on this one. So
don't you worry,
Johnny.
I've read up on this one. Yeah. So it starts with, unfortunately, there was a fatal accident at Brayton back in November involving an escapade, and the AAIB have issued 3 bulletins as a result of this. The first is that basically the LAA need to remind owners of that aircraft type of the necessity after every seat position adjustment to ensure that the seat pin is correctly locking the seat, and to set the adjuster backup strap after they've locked the seat in position. The second bulletin is exactly the same, but for the BMAA. And the third is just that the CAA, in conjunction with the LAA and BMAA, remind pilots generally of the importance of ensuring that seats are correctly locked and any secondary locking mechanisms are correctly used. And I know, anecdotally, I know of one or two instances where seats have either failed or given way, and it's a big safety issue. So
Yeah,
there was quite a few years ago now. Maybe I'm thinking possibly 20, maybe even more than 20. There was another sad fatal accident at Compton Abbas. It was an aircraft. I can't remember if it was a 152, 150, or 172. But similar to that.
I can't remember. Yeah,
kind of effectively that was what everybody thought happened, what the ARB thought happened in the end. I think it was either go round or something, but effectively the seat slid back. And certainly I know in my 182 the rails have been replaced, because there's quite a lot of inspection of the rails goes on at the annuals and stuff like that, and checks to make sure they're not cracked and stuff like that. I always include, touch red, a little kind of bottom wiggle to make sure the pins are engaged, as it were. So there you go. Yeah. Okay, and the next story is Dave.
Well, on a slightly jollier note, Airability boss Mike Miller-Smith is one of 12 volunteer aviation ambassadors appointed for 2022, announced by the DA Department for Transport the other day. The Aviation Ambassadors Group works with the Department for Transport to help deliver a skilled, diverse and sustainable aviation workforce. Mike said, taking the controls of an aeroplane reminds us of what we're all capable of, irrespective of who we are, where we come from and what our abilities are. So the 12 ambassadors, some of whom I've heard of, but not all of them by any means. I won't read them all out. There's a news story on the Flyer website. But I mean, among the people in there, some ones we do know about: Kenchana Gamage, who's the founder of the Aviatrix project. There's Catherine Maloney, who we've featured in the magazine quite recently. Mandy Hickson, of course. Yeah, she announced that here
weeks ago,
several months ago.
Heard it here first, folks.
Yep. There's someone called Susie Morgan, who's a British Airways captain on a Boeing 777, and she already gives virtual talks to schools and as a mentor to students on BA's Speedbird Z platform, giving support and information to aspiring pilots. Another one we know is Tim Bridge, who's founder of Nuncats. That's the electric aeroplane project up at Old Buckingham. I think you mentioned when we were talking about this earlier, Ian, we do hear these appointments being made, but we don't hear much after that. So let's hope we hear a bit more what they're doing this year.
That is very true. We hear the appointment, we don't hear much else. So I have to say, I've known Mike for a long, long time, and he is an absolute bloody legend. I mean, if Mike ever phones you up, sends you an email, and asks you to do something, and you don't want to do it, you might as well just say yes straight away, just to save yourself all the hassle of Mike just grinding you down over time, because he will.
Yeah. Darren Longton says the ambassadors have been hugely helpful to Fly to Help over the last few years. Good to know, Darren.
Yeah,
it is good. Maybe we all need to hear more about what the ambassadors do. And
yeah. Well, there's 11 good live stream guests that we've had one, so maybe we can get them all on.
And in the spirit of Christmas adverts, and hopefully maybe Johnny won't get this because he's probably too young, but do the ambassadors all have a reception where they roll out the Ferrero Rocher?
I thought I was trying to figure out how you were going to get to. This is not any aviation ambassador. This is an M&S aviation.
No. Christmas was all about the ambassador's reception, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. So what are the good news? Have you got another bit of good news in your story there, Dave?
Yes. Yes. Yes, this is the news that Tim Dawson from SkyDemon, founder of SkyDemon, he received his OBE today. Here it is, a picture of him having it pinned by Princess Anne. So, well done, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. Another very, very well. I mean, we all knew that he got an ABE. I think it was in last year's honours list. I can't remember. Whenever it was, a while ago. But yesterday was the day when I think they call it the investiture, don't they? So I think
That's right.
nipped off the Windsor Castle. So well done, Tim. Good one. All right, my story next. Hey, this is the Civil Aviation Authority's Brexit reminder. UK-EU transition changes from the 1st of January from blah, blah, blah. I won't read it out to you because it's boring, but it basically says if you hold an EASA license, whether that's to fly, to maintain aircraft, whatever it happens to be, then at the end of 2022, that will no longer be recognised. So you've basically got from now until the end of 2022 to apply to change that to a UK issued one. So if you've got a PPL, for example, and it says EASA FCL, you can't just scratch off the EASA bit because that would be too easy. You have to pay the CA 77 quid for them to send you back one that says UK CA Part FCL license. And you know what? It's less useful than the one you had before, but it's 77 quid and a bargain. Yep, bring it on. There's also a kind of sober note at the bottom of the information that says, and at this point in time, it does appear that the aviation maintenance pilot licensing stuff will not form part of any trade agreement. So don't expect that to change anytime soon. And if you're interested, I've written to the CAA asking them, so if you happen to be flying your G-Reg aircraft overseas in Europe and you need some work doing on it because it's some kind of mechanical fault or something, what then happens? How do you get that done? And should you be in an even more unfortunate position and you require a part that is going to take a little while to arrive, for example, as many parts do at the moment, and your annual happens to expire, how do you get your annulled when you're in, I don't know, Portugal or Hungary or somewhere? And so we'll let you know what they say when they say it eventually. So there you go. Anyway, 77 quid, bargain, just to do less than you could before. Amazing. Dave.
Or Ed.
Or me even.
Or Ed even. You
Yes.
see, so it is.
Yes. So we've got a new video out. In the January issue of Flyer, Ian tested 2 headsets from a new British manufacturer, the Aviation AS2 and PS2. The AS2 was an ANR unit retailing at 380 quid, while the PS2 was a passive headset priced at 199. Both had extensive carbon fiber construction, which helped make them nice and light. They were quite nice to handle. Anyway, Ian's put together a great video review, and it's on YouTube now. I'm sure someone has a link to put in the comments.
Probably. It's just a short video. It's not like the full review. Read the review in the magazine. Have a look at the video for a few minutes just for a laugh.
Yeah.
See me bounce a landing as well, so that'll make you happy.
Hey, it was the 180. It's the 180. As long as the 180 is serviceable for next time around, that's a win, right?
Yeah, absolutely. What you can't tell is it looks like I approach like far too fast because it takes a long time before I actually land. But that's actually what actually happens at the strip, and you'll notice it is I tend to come in and then add some power and just stay there to get over the soft bits, and then because you don't need to land short at the strip. So it just looks, you can't hear the power being added because there's music in the background. Music that someone complained on the comments was too loud, so I do apologise for that. Anyway, there you go. Right, next must be Dave now.
Yes, this is just in late this afternoon. The Honourable Company of Air Pilots have opened applications for their 2022 private pilot licence scholarships. There's a whole bundle of these, and we'll have a news story up tomorrow morning with the links to take you to the right place. But if you know anybody who wants to start training and is a bit strapped for cash, this could be one way of getting them going.
Sounds good to me. Free money. Let's send it in tomorrow. Yep, just a quick note from me. Thank you very much. We've had a couple of presents arrive at the Flyer offices. Some very, very much appreciated. Thank you very much. David at Easter Airfield, who sent some mead, wine, some honey, and a candle. And a few other bits and pieces that have arrived. So thank you very much to everyone for that. Happy Christmas to you all. Dave, over to you.
Right. Well, Ian spoke to Dave White earlier today for an update on the customs procedures, and he made this little video. Run the VT.
Hello, Dave. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I know through conversations we've been talking about some changes to notice periods for customs. I know you've been emailing various people trying to get it straightened out for us. Could you give us a bit of an update of what's coming down the line and where you are with your attempts to understand it understand what they're saying, as it were?
Well, sure. Yes, it's quite interesting. A couple of weeks ago, HMRC wrote to airfields explaining that GAR, General Aviation Report and customs procedures were changing from the 1st of January 2022. Both inbound and now post-Brexit, we need to give notice outbound to the EU. You're now required to give notice and leave from certificate of agreement or designated airfields. But the letter that went out only 2 weeks ago did contain some surprises. Some of those surprises were good, some not so good, and at least one was just plain wrong. Annoyingly, as is becoming depressingly commonplace in UK aviation, which of course, as we know, is the best place in the world for GA, some elements of the authorities we deal with can interpret their own rules incorrectly or perversely. And I think that's what's happened in a few places in that letter. A thread on the Flyer forum picked up a few, that's not right, surely that can't mean that, and some why on earths. So I thought I'd write to Border Force and ask for clarification. And after a bit of bouncing around, I eventually found a very helpful person at one of the Home Office policy unit. And there were 4 particular items to address, 2 of which pretty straightforward. The first one was good news. Many airfields were given a blanket certificate of agreement, which allowed you to depart and arrive from the EU. And as it turns out, some airfields where you couldn't go to or from the Channel Islands, you now can, were given that blanket certificate of approval up to the end of June next year. The even better news is that that has been extended now, that blanket approval, until the end of December 2023, so another 18 months. And I did take the opportunity to thank the team for the whole certificate of agreement airfield thing, which has been done really well. That's good news. The other thing, which was a bad surprise in that letter, was a very direct statement that failure to seek approval to travel to or from another country within the common travel area is a criminal offence. That's wrong. It is not a requirement to gain approval. You must notify a constable, are the words in the Prevention of Terrorism Act. So I said, hang on a minute, that's wrong. And very quickly, they confirmed it was an error. What they actually said was, in the case of an aircraft not operating for reward, if the airfield is non-designated, so certificate of agreement, the requirement is to notify the relevant police forces, is not to seek approval. So those 2, really good, got those sorted out quite quickly. So the other 2 items, less straightforward, and I'm still in an email loop trying to get to the bottom of those. The issues are these. Firstly, the letter to airfields refers to an outward clearance when leaving GB for a foreign destination, which, of course, now post-Brexit includes the EU. I asked for clarification as to what they meant by a clearance. By saying clearance, do you mean this is something positive we need back from HMRC? That is, do we need permission to depart? Surely not, because I felt that that would be a major change, presumably in the law. The other issue was the notification periods for outbound to and inbound from the EU have reduced to 2 hours from the previous 4 hours. On the face of it, that's great news. The sting in the tail was that the notification period for returning to the UK has apparently changed from being calculated before your arrival back at your strip in the UK to 2 hours before your departure from your last stop in the EU. I think it's illogical, and I also think it's inconsistent with the rules from the rest of the world, including the common travel area. So I wrote back to them about that as well. Taking those 2 items in turn, firstly, the outward clearance, do we need permission one, to the EU? They came back suggesting that there was simply a terminology question from me. They quoted the Customs and Excise Management Act 1979, keep that year in mind, and confirmed that that is still the law in question. So I've gone back to them and I've said, no, that's not what I intended to ask. My question wasn't one specifically about terminology. It was asking, what do we actually have to do? What does clearance actually mean? And since they confirmed the 1979 law is unchanged, I've invited them to confirm that, therefore, there is no change in the actions that we have to do, other than it now applies to the EU rather than the rest of the world and the common travel area. No change in practice being we send a GAR in the necessary time frame, we depart from a suitable airfield, and if there's no challenge or visit from an official in that period, off you go. The more thorny one, I suppose, is this business of the notification period being based on departure time from the EU jumping off point. They came back and they said, no, what we said is correct. It's 2 hours before departure from the EU airfield, not 2 hours before arrival. But not only that, they went on now to claim, and I'll just read this from the piece of paper that I've got. They said, the revised time limits bring clarity and consistency over what was in place previously. There is no longer ambiguity relating to the duration of the flight, and it will enable efficient processing and risk assessments of the reports submitted. It doesn't bring clarity or consistency, and I've explained with examples why I think it's unclear and in particular inconsistent. And finally, I pointed out, you only told us about these changes 2 weeks ago. They come into force in another 2 weeks, and that includes the Christmas break. What are we going to do? I've had no response at all to that. But then again, I did only send it yesterday morning, so it might not just be a stunned silence. That's where we are.
Well, thank you very much for that update. When you hear back, we'd love to hear more. And I guess we should be. I should be bribing you with some wine or beer, and seeing if when it's all sorted, you'd be up for doing a bit of a webinar explaining it to people.
Yeah, I'll do that. And yeah, I'll take up the wine or the beer. And the beer.
Fantastic. That would be great. Well, thank you very much, Dave.
I just love the thought of people in all these high places being challenged by Dave going, no, that's wrong, and that people are sat there going, what happens if he's right?
two things there. Dave snuck in at the end that he would accept. I'd said, try with some wine or beer, and he said he would accept both wine and beer. So that was good. And the other thing is, I did manage to speak to Dave just before we pressed go live today, and he's had a reply back on the first of those. So the good news is there is basically when you submit your form saying you're off your 2 hours notice, you don't have to seek approval. You don't have to wait for them to come back and say you can, even though it suggests that it's a clearance. If they don't get back in touch with you and say no, stay there, then you can just bugger off and go. So, and he's still working on the other stuff. When we get it all sorted out, ducks in a row, we'll get him on and we'll do it again. So there you go.
Catkin says, sounds as though it might take them a while to work out how to revoke a license, though.
Yeah, well, the best thing would be if they revoked an EASA one rather than the CA one, wouldn't it? Yeah. Johnny.
Yeah, so we've teamed up with Poolies for a giveaway. So to celebrate the release of the 60th edition of their flight guide, there's a Christmas competition in collaboration with us. So you can win either the flight guide, Poolies diary, Bose headset, Garmin GPS watch, or a year's Flyer Club membership. So all you need to do, and I'll post the link in the comments, is follow Poolies and Flyer on Instagram, tag a couple of your friends in the comments, share the post to your story, and the link will take you to the post that you need to like. So easy there. The competition closes tomorrow at 6 p.m. So if you do all those things, and we'll post all of the items that you need to do in the comments as well, just so you don't miss out. If you enter by 6 o'clock tomorrow, you could win one of those amazing things.
It's like 1,500 quid's worth, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's just the Flyer membership. That's just the new price, which is what you should subscribe at £7.50 before it goes up to 1,500. Yeah. Okay, just a very quick one. Where's Zara now? Anyone know?
Malaysia.
There you go.
Isn't it?
Malaysia.
Wow. Yeah, in Kota Kinabalu, apparently.
Yeah, I saw that. I couldn't pronounce it. So. There you go. Good. Right. Let me bring in a hard from Wingley. There you go, hard. Stand by. Let me just do this little bit here. There's no way of doing this quickly, unfortunately. There you go.
Aced it.
Thank you very much.
Hi, guys.
Wingy, thank you very much for being so patient and waiting in the green room while we wibbled on for ages and ages and ages. I realise you're in Paris and it's already 9:10. And presumably all young people in Paris are just in bed asleep at 9:10, not passing.
Well, hi guys. Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's interesting to be on the other side of the screen this time and not watching the stream. But yeah, it's great.
Well, thanks for joining us. So, I mean, we got you on for all sorts of reasons, but one of the main reasons is because at the moment there's the CAA running a cost share consultation, which clearly is something that you're deeply interested in. So maybe we could just kick off with a quick question, and we normally ask how people got into aviation, and I'm sure you've got an interesting story, but what we're really interested in is how Wingley got into aviation and how that started, and give us a little bit of Wingley history before we move on.
Absolutely. So, as Wingley, we're the largest flight sharing platform in Europe, and we essentially got into this being that most of the co-founders are pilots or interested in aviation. And what we essentially did was when we found the cost sharing rules came in place, we wanted to allow pilots to be able to share those costs and fly more. And in doing so, they were able to share these costs and fly more, saving money, but also introducing a lot more new people into general aviation. In terms of GA, we've got essentially more than 30,000 flights done, and about 61,000 passengers that have already flown on the platform. And we've actually organised our very first cost share flight in 2015. So it's been a long time since we've been operating. And obviously, we've had so many pilots being on the system and being on the platform, being able to share this and obviously bring more people onto the platform and bringing more people into GA.
Fantastic. And when you saw the CA cost share consultation, did you know that was coming, or was that kind of just appear out of the blue?
I mean, we knew that they were discussing it, but we didn't know exactly what it was going to be or whether the rules would be changed or what they were going to propose. So when it did come in, we found out as much as everyone else did at the same time.
Okay, so I'm gonna take a punt here, and well, it's not too much of a punt because I've seen it written down under Wingley's name anyway. So, like us, Wingley is pretty keen to stop illegal charters, grey charters. I don't know why they're called grey charters; they're just illegal charters. So I presume that's the case.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the whole system that we've designed is completely to stop anything illegal and only allow for legal and genuine cost-sharing pilots to put their flights on, be verified, and share these flights. And the way we do it is through various means, through a lot of technology on the back end. This includes us verifying the flights, the aircraft that they post, the flights that they add on, looking up the costs, and obviously if we see discrepancies, then we do contact them and we make sure that these are actually put in place. And the way the system's always is designed, in a way, you will always find that whatever costs that the pilots do say they are going to sort of bear, they will always be paid out less, and essentially always less than what they've been stated. And we're able to verify this. And the good thing with a cost share platform like ours is you can trace all of these payments, all of these transfers, you can see all of that. So you know exactly the contributions that the passengers are paying is directly in relation to the proportion of costs. And essentially there's no way for a pilot to actually earn profit, which would make the flight illegal. And hence that's why a platform like ours does so well. There we go.
I mean, I kind of guess that it's always seemed slightly strange when people have looked at Wingley and said, "Oh, that must be illegal," and actually, Wingley would be one of the least popular places to do illegal stuff because you've actually got it there for anyone to look at. But there have been accusations, and let's say, for example, that I joined Wingley tomorrow and decided that I wanted to take someone flying in the 182 from it's NREG, so that's a kind of complication that we'll just gloss over for the sake of this conversation. But let's say it was a kind of down to the Isle of Wight, and I know it's going to take me half an hour to get there, half an hour to get back, roughly speaking, an hour's flight, some landing fees. But what's to stop me saying, yeah, well, it cost me £500 an hour to operate my airplane? Clearly, it doesn't.
So that's actually a really, really good question. And the way we do it is we've got a whole database of all the aircraft in the UK. And obviously, if you are from a school, if you share from if you're sharing an aircraft or you're a renter, we have the costs already put in place in our system. And so when you put in your cost, we obviously have the average as well. So we know exactly how much on average it would cost to get there and back. And so should something flag up, and you do say 500 quid, which obviously is not the case, we will be notified. So you won't be allowed to post that flight. We're notified. We will contact you. We'll make sure that you give us all the correct information so we know that those costs are legitimate. And we get proof. And then that's the only way you'd be able to put that flight forward. And be able to share the cost. And then the other thing, I think, which most people don't see, but the economics of the platform, is that if you have a really expensive flight for whatever reason, there's plenty of other pilots that are cost sharing, and even if they've got something less, that's what will get booked. So it obviously varies. But if you've got legitimate costs, then that's essentially what we'll put on. And if it's illegal, then we'll probably just report it, just like everyone else would.
So, I mean, would you just kind of anecdotally, I guess, how many times a week, a month, or a year does it happen that you or someone from Wingley has to look at something and go, hang on a minute, you're just kind of you're kind of pushing it a bit there. You've got, I mean, is that a sort of rare thing these days, or is it frequent?
I think it's a great question. In terms of the way it's done, we get these all the time. So we'll get different flags for different reasons, depending on whether it's aircraft costs, if it's landing fees. So we do check all of this, and we do this for each and every flight. And I think just last week we had to call 2 parts. It's always just to make sure. I don't think we've ever had issues where someone's illegally tried to do anything, but it's always something we try to make sure just to keep up with the integrity of the platform. And that's what we really want in the end. And what we want to display is, this is the legal way to cost share. You've got everything displayed. Everything is very transparent. In fact, this might be even more transparent than any other way possible, even when you're cost sharing with mates. I think, that is obviously internal, but this is completely in the open and everyone can see it. So that's what is completely different from a transparent platform like ours, and maybe something that is probably illegal, that's hidden in a hidden channel, and that's how they're trying to make those flights take place. So it's not the same.
So, I mean, moving on to the CA consultation, off the top of my head, there are kind of like four main points. There's the point which I think is not hugely contentious, which the CA effectively say we would like to make things clearer for people. And I don't think too many people argue against stuff wanting to be clearer. Whether the CA have got the ability to make anything clearer is another matter, but that's not really for the consultation. Although maybe we should run a consultation. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll plan that for 2022, actually. But there are a couple of things in there which are, I at least in my response, were contentious. Where does Wingley sit on the common purpose question?
So in terms of trying to put in place a common purpose of travel, I think just looking into just the way cost sharing works and just how it operates, the challenge that we will see is we might see a lot of normal cost sharing examples that take place legally at this time in the existing regulations that might be turned illegal without a pilot even knowing. And for example, just taking this example, just looking at, for example, the pilot that's flying to the Isle of Wight, just on the day off, and they want to, obviously share some seats, and they've got people going with them. The fact that maybe they want to stay at Sandown and have lunch, and the passengers probably want to go somewhere else, while they're still cost sharing, while there's no one actually earning money doing this, and there's no real issue to safety because the flight's probably taking place in those good conditions. It might make that flight illegal, and it essentially is. It doesn't make sense in term for a pilot because obviously they wouldn't realise, but it might just make things more confusing as well. So if not correctly defined or not properly defined, it will make things more confusing. And if defined in the more strictest of terms, it might reduce the amount of flights a pilot might do, which essentially allows them to fly less. And then by flying less, they become less current. And becoming less current, they become more unsafe. So, of course, I think the whole common purpose rule is not really, and it doesn't really make sense in terms of a legal flight. But when you consider that the fact that the CA have also said that common purpose cost sharing, the way they're saying illegal operators work is they're colluding. And they're essentially colluding with passengers to say that these flights are cost shared. So then what stops them from saying they were colluding to say they have common purpose, whereas a normal, honest cost-sharing pilot on Wingley would just be prevented from doing many flights that currently do exist and work quite nicely.
I mean, I would guess if something's on Wingley, it's tough to collude because it's a public thing that people have seen already, and certainly the CA. I mean, I asked quite a few questions of the CA, and they on the common purpose thing. My worry is that the way they've drafted it, the way they've drafted their suggestions, and they did make it clear it's a consultation. They haven't made up their mind. I don't know if they had their fingers crossed when they said that or not, but what they brought in the reply to me, which I only received yesterday, they talked about holding out. What they seem to not like is the situation where they say, okay, a pilot is holding out if they offer to take someone somewhere, and I'll take anybody, anywhere, anytime, is basically a kind of ad hoc charter, regardless of whether there's any profit in it or not. And that seems to be what they are arguing against. Although the way they've written it and the way they've suggested it, if you apply that literally, and I was to give, for argument's sake, Ed a lift to pick up his aeroplane, which he'd left at Sywell because the weather was bad or something, and Ed said, "I'll bung you a few quid for the fuel." Not that I'd accept it, but if he did, that would by their definition, because I didn't have a common purpose to go to Sywell, that would be illegal, which would clearly be a dumb thing. Now they actually say in the reply to me that that's not what they're trying to stop, and that's not how they're setting out. But as with these things, once the law's written, particularly if the law's badly written, you end up with all sorts of unintended consequences. Moving on, because time's moving on as well. How does Wingley sit with regards to the sharing of the cost? I mean, I think the rules are written in such a way that the pilot can contribute a penny.
So the way it's set up right now, in terms of the existing regulation, it's not clearly defined, which means it says only a proportionate amount of cost can be shared. That being said, on Wingley, we've always pushed for equal sharing, and our system was always designed for equal sharing. It was never for the pilot to do, they couldn't essentially do less. They always had to share an equal proportion. The big challenge that comes in is by enforcing it legally now. Currently the barrier was always we keep it equal sharing, but if it goes further and they say, okay, well, now the legal barrier is equal sharing, we're going to have to push the cost to 60-40, say if it's just two people sharing, 60-40 in favor of the passenger, where the pilot now has to pay more, 60% more, 60% of the cost rather than 50% of the cost. And the reason being is because when they estimate costs, sometimes you can have a flight that gets cut a little short due to a tailwind. And this is an example that might sound trivial, but it's true. And essentially, just by having a tailwind, they might end up paying, say, 45% as compared to 50%, which isn't much. And it doesn't really change the safety of the flight, nor is the pilot actually earning any money. But now, in this sense, they're going to be considered as illegal. And that doesn't really make a lot of sense. So we do understand that they want to put some sort of proportion, because obviously the whole idea of flying with a penny, that's a bit ridiculous. We don't actually have that on Wingley either. I mean, it's just not possible to do so. And you can feel free to try our system if you like to. But the way it happens now, it might be a bit different. And in the end, what that means is that we're going to have to reduce the amount of cost that can be shared with the pilot. So the pilots are going to be able to fly a bit less because that flying budget is now reduced again. Then going into the aspect where they're going to fly less because of that, and then making them less current and less safe. So it all goes back to the same thing, which is cost sharing is allowing pilots to fly more. And that's what the CAA have said. It allows them to fly more and make them safer pilots. And by sort of restricting them in these sort of ways, it's going to reduce that. So, yeah.
And lastly, in the consultation, there was a suggestion that the CAA were proposing increasing the administrative burden. I think they probably didn't call it administrative burden, and require a kind of passenger declaration, a captain's declaration, and I think there were 3 forms in all that would have had to be filled in if the proposal went ahead unchanged. I mean, I personally, I think there should be many more forms. I love filling in forms. You should make people get more permission all of the time, fill in more forms, write more emails, and ask lots of, and you shouldn't do it until you get positive approval from people. That's how I think it should be. There's never enough paperwork, clearly. What was Wingley's response?
So this is something that we've seen, and to give you an idea, with Wingley, about 56% of the people that fly on Wingley as passengers, they're first-time flyers, so newly introduced to GA. And so throughout, when we've started, all throughout the years, we've, with EASA, and this is when the CAA was also part of EASA, so we created a safety checklist, and we used to share these with all our passengers and pilots. So we do already do this, and this is something that we find very important. So the pilots and the passengers are made aware of the risk and walk, and all the things that do come in place in that sort of GA flight. So they understand sort of the way GA works, and they're sort of sensitized to it. By adding the sort of forms, what we do want the CAA to provide a lot more, for not a lot more briefings and things that will help. By legally enforcing just forms and signing things, I think it just puts a pilot off, maybe. I think it'll just probably put them off. Or it could potentially make the flight illegal just because they didn't file and sign a few forms, whereas they're still not earning, any money. They're still not. It's still cost sharing. It's still fairly safe in the way it's done compared to any non-cost share flight, as long as it's done the right way. But I think this is just another additional form to sign and fill. So I think that becomes a challenge. So we don't think that this should be legally enforced, but we do want the CAA to create as many briefings and things that we can put out to both sides to, again, educate them and obviously make this a better activity for everyone.
Okay, and finally, because we've kind of gone a little bit over time, apologies for that. What do you think the CAA? Do you think the CAA proposal will reduce illegal charter? And if not, what do you think could be done to reduce illegal charter?
I mean, I think the reality is there's quite a few points, and we do really, really support the CAA in trying to look into stopping this, obviously, because that is where the danger comes in, and we want them to stop the illegal charter and the grey charter. But the challenge is that I think the rules here might affect more genuine, honest cost-sharing pilots on Wingley, for example, who essentially will just be able to will become more restricted in terms of the flights they do, without the fact of it being a safety issue or the fact that it's that they're going to be earning money, because they were never earning money in the first place to begin with. So by reducing those flights, it's just going to be more of a safety issue and making them less current. I think the CAA, I don't really know. I mean, the way to stop them is more legal enforcement. So if they enforce the existing rules and obviously put forward the clarification, and this way, us as a platform also put forward the same things, and we let people know so they understand the differences between what's legal and what's illegal. I think us as a platform existing also educates a lot more people to what they can do and what they can't do, as compared to what someone might lie to them or tell them otherwise, and that's being completely open. I think that's where we also play a big part. One of the things I didn't get to mention is the other thing that wasn't actually asked in terms of a big question was the way the CAA have now gone into identify direct costs, and that is something that's very interesting because there's owners that essentially cost share on Wingley as well, and the way direct costs were defined currently, or essentially an example, they give them a list of different things that can be considered direct costs, and this is obviously not very clearly defined, but the CAA have gone in and actually defined it. But the way they've defined it is just to say that it's only fuel and air fuel charges. But if you're an owner that owns their airplane, I think it's significantly unfair to cost share compared to a renter or a joint owner, because they can actually include the cost of those, the hourly cost. They have an hourly cost, whereas for an owner, the hourly cost isn't quite defined, and there's many things that need to be included to sort of make it comparable. And I think what actually happens is, from what our studies, is that an owner pilot that owns that airplane is actually going to end up sharing about 48% less than what a renter or a joint owner could do. So actually, it makes it quite difficult for an owner, and this is something that isn't even considered as a question or put forward, and hence we had to actually address this as well in our response to the CAA.
Clearly, lots and lots of potential for unintended consequences in any change to the regulation, as always. And I know Wingley has published a blog with your actual responses to the consultation ago. It's certainly a subject that's deeply of interest to an awful lot of people. We've only really just touched the surface slightly. I know there's lots of comments and questions that have been in the comments tonight. Unfortunately, we haven't got time to go through them. What I'd like to say is, when the next stage, when we hear more from the CA, perhaps we can organise a bit of a Wingley webinar live stream when we will have time to go through and ask a load of questions and get the questions answered as well.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
One question I just picked up on as I saw it flashing by earlier was from Katkin. I said, in terms of how many passenger complaints, if you like, do you get for any reason?
So it's interesting. I mean, our goal is obviously, and what sort of complaints are we talking about? Because in terms of flight, we do have a lot of, they're not really complaints, but in order to explain general aviation to passengers, just one thing that people should know is about 40% of the flights that get booked on Wingley get cancelled by pilots on a cost-shared basis, because these are cost-share flights, and if they don't want to do flights, as I said, they don't have to do them. They're not obligated to do them. This is completely different from what you might see otherwise. And so our job as a platform is obviously to make sure that the passenger does understand that this, this was due to a safety issue, or, flying in bad weather, or for whatever reason was a safety issue, and then, make them understand. So it's not really a complaint. I think we're getting less and less of these going forward, because we're able to educate a lot more people about GA moving forward. So that's essentially it. And once people do understand it, I think they keep coming back, and I think they catch the flying bug and they'll come back, and hopefully we see them as pilots on the platform, and we've already seen that in many cases. So that's what's great about this whole system.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. Fascinating little insight into Wingley's operation. When we get to the next stage, and there's some more stuff to talk about, let's all sit down again, do another live stream, which we'll advertise, and then we'll have to hopefully make some time to answer all of the questions as well. So thank you very much, Ahad. Thanks for staying up late. I hope you had a good trip back, and talk to you again soon.
Well, I appreciate it, and I hope everyone has a lovely holiday, and we'll chat soon, hopefully in person next time.
You too. Right. Look forward to it. Cheers.
All right. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Thank you, whoever pressed that.
That's all right. It's almost like we prepare for these things.
Yeah, right. We're running a little bit late because I went a bit over there. I do apologise, people.
That's okay. And it was I had really good guest and really good topic, and lots of kind of well discussed points there. So I think everyone enjoyed that. So
there's a lot more to go in that subject as we get some more. So that'll be
definitely
good stuff. Right then.
Yeah. Fancy Hangar. So this week, with Christmas just a week away, a little bit, we wondered if Santa had to use a GA single, so up to maximum 5,700 kilograms, what would he go for? So who's first? Oh, and there's some maths to this. So we decided that we would. It's not just about picking anything. It's about max speed and useful load, and what was the other one? Range. There we go. So it's a big maths challenge.
Yeah, I think we should get Dave out of the way first.
Yeah. This is because I've got the winner. Obviously, there is an elephant in the room. There is an aircraft that just stands out as being the right one, and that is the Pilatus PC-12, and I'd have the latest one, the NGX. It's got a payload of 1,014 kilograms, got a range of 1,803 nautical miles. This is max range. And it's got a max cruise speed of 290 knots true airspeed. If you do the calculation, which is timesing all these together, you get this astonishing figure of 530,190,180. What 530,190,180.
That's a good score.
That's an astonishing figure. I mean, and just saying it out loud like that, you've got really nothing to compare it against till you've heard the others. So
that's true. So we'll see whether you win or not.
That's it.
There's that little je ne sais quoi that can't be given a number as well, isn't there? So
that's it. There certainly is. Who's next?
I think it's me.
Yes,
Johnny.
I think it is you.
Yeah, so I thought, the PC-12 is a great pick, but Dave's picked it. So what can I choose that's closest to the PC-12 as possible? And I've basically gone for a fake version.
You like a bargain?
Yeah, as Ed called it, the little option. This is the AE270 Spirit, built by Aero Veducci, or Veducci, however you pronounce it, who are behind the L-29 Albatross, aircraft like that. Now, this can carry 1,200 kilos. Ed's disappeared. Has Ed fallen asleep, or has he just actually disappeared?
You carry on, Johnny. I'm just scrutinising the screen very carefully. You crack on.
1,200 kilos, 1,600 nautical miles, and 270 knots, apparently, which gives me a score of 521,640,000. So just 9 million under Dave.
Wow. That's a win. You know, we were debating earlier about, we looked at that picture, and it's like, what's going on with the colour scheme there? And I figured out what's going on. Someone's been doing repairs to it. It's primer, and there's clearly maybe we need to add some more rivets or do something. But that's a bunch of stuff happening in the structure there. So
okay,
in your little PC-12.
Because is that why you've got an RV6? Because you really wanted a 152, but you got like a cheap copy. Well, losers! I went for something called a Viper. An aeroplane called a Viper has clearly got a win, hasn't it?
It's going to bite you.
Here it is. It's an Intercom GA-17 Viper. It's a collaboration between Intercom Aero Designs and Khrushchev Bureau in Moscow. And basically, if you can kind of, that might look kind of familiar, but it's basically a much modified PA-31 Navajo, pressurized Navajo. And in fact, the company actually did take it. That's Intercom took it to Piper as a proposal, and Piper said, "No, man, get out of here," or something more polite, probably.
Are you sure they didn't just laugh a lot?
I don't know why you would laugh. It's an amazing looking aircraft.
I'm just trying to think what the amount of work it takes to convert a twin into a single.
Okay, so there's quite a lot of work, but wait until So it was powered by a water turbine producing 757 shaft horsepower, but that's all boring. The interesting thing in 2003, how much do you reckon they were trying to sell it? Bearing in mind there would have been a shitload of work converting a twin into a single.
Due to very exceptional labour rates, I would imagine that you could have bought that for what, £400,000?
It depends on dollar rate at the time, but basically they were going to sell them for $860,000.
Wow, which was probably about right.
Yeah, it's probably about right. I'm trying to remember when was
there was a time when it was nearly $2 to the pound, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. When was everyone getting worried about VLJs? I'm wondering if it was the VLJ that killed it off, and everyone went, "No, Vern Rayburn, he's going to do an eclipse and make the skies are going to go grey with Rayburn eclipses."
I would imagine someone at Piper is still laughing at the suggestion that they were going to build that.
Yes, probably just after feeling bad about the single-engine jet that they built and is now in the Sun and Fun Museum, rotting gradually outside.
Yes.
Rumor has it, and Piper will probably never advertise again, but rumor has it the only way they could get that to fly, get the weight and balance right, was to put a big lump of concrete in the front.
Okay.
But
anyway, Mark Litherland says, "Hurry up, chaps, it's MasterChef Pro Final tonight."
Sorry.
Anyway.
Okay, Ed, your turn.
So that just leaves me.
Yeah.
So I thought, who needs reindeer when you've got Draco? That's right. The mad PZL Wilga 2000 that Uber home builder Mike Patey added a ton of modifications to, but most of all fitted a 700 horsepower PT6 turboprop. So my headline numbers are quite bonkersly: 178 knots, 1,000 nautical miles of range, and 1,400 pound useful load. So that gives me a score of 1 million. Oh no, it doesn't. What is it? It's of 113 million and 30,000, which makes me come last. However, so I've got a takeoff and landing distance of 78 feet and 97 feet, and I've got a climb rate of 4,200 feet per minute. So it's unlikely that if I'll be able to go into anywhere next to a house, and I'll be able to depart while the rest of you are all making aeroplane-shaped holes as you fly off down the street.
Ed, how are you putting up all of those Ed wins at the same time as talking? That's quite.
That's it. Yeah, it's not me. And Mike being Mike, critically, we'll be able to modify it to put lots of parcels in. And I figured that actually the score, there was one factor we left out, and that would be to divide the score by our takeoff distance. So, Dave, you get a score with your enormous takeoff distance of 2,485 feet of 213,000. Johnny, with his little PC-12, gets 301,000. Ian, with his bonkersly modified Navajo, gets 174,000. But amazingly, with my factors, I get 1,449,000. So, as everyone's been saying, Ed wins.
Or as Catkin says,
it's just easier to type head.
Okay. I think Ed might have it on the kind of. Yeah, I was quite pleased to find my little intercom, I have to say. Right, quickly, what have we got coming up before MasterChef final?
So, 19th of December, Fenland Christmas flying. 29th of December, Old Warden, the pedal plane attempt. This is trying to get as many pedal planes in the UK to try and beat a record. And there are 3 New Year's Day flyings that we know of, at Bodmin, Popham and North Reps. And if you really want to freeze your nuts off, go to the North Coast Brass Monkey flying on the 8th and 9th of January.
Sounds good to me.
Good stuff.
Sounds good to me. What
Rudy,
else we got?
Rudy says we need to make flyer top trumps cards.
Oh, yes.
Ooh,
I'm getting quite a lot of Dave's wins on here.
Yeah, clearly there's some people who are just mad.
Okay, just a quick, Johnny, remind people they don't have to pay 1,500 quid to join the club. They can
No.
pay £7.50.
Yeah, or 30 quid for the year. Lock it in before it goes up in the new year. So, go to flyer.co.uk, hit the club tab and join.
Yeah. Big changes coming in the new year. We'll do a special live stream and explain it to you, which incidentally is how the live stream all started. But anyway, so I think that's probably it. So thank you very much to all of you guys. Thank you very much to Dave, who was on earlier. Thank you very much to Ahad, who joined us from Paris. And well done. It was when we thought we were going to have Zara on, amazing amount of messages got from people saying, please say to Zara, well done, fantastic job, carry on. So we'll store those to one side and pass those on hopefully next week. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a safe weekend. Try not to get COVID, and we'll see you on Wednesday if you're a member, or Thursday if you're not, or if you are as well. So there you go. I think that's about it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Fly safe, everyone.
Fly safe.